It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Athletes Unlimited Ali Bastianelli, who plays professional volleyball. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to play professional volleyball?
Yeah, so playing for Illinois, we made it to the Final Four my senior year. And throughout that entire season, I realized that playing professionally was something that I was interested in. And I wasn't allowed to be contacted by agents until the season was officially over. And so after the Final Four, I met with a couple agents. I talked to a few and talked to my coaches, and I realized that pro volleyball was something I was definitely interested in. And I kind of got started with the process after the Final Four.
What was your experience at Illinois, and what was it like putting on that jersey?
It was incredible, to say the least. I went through, my teammates and I went through a few coaching changes while we were there with the head coach, assistant coaches, but I wouldn't change a single thing. I feel like we ended my senior year in such a great way. Going to the Final Four, obviously, it would have been great if we had won a national championship, but I still think that through all the trials and tribulations of Illinois volleyball in the 4 years that myself, my teammates were there, we accomplished so much. And I'm so proud to be a Fighting Illini alum.
What were some of your volleyball accomplishments during your college career?
I would say my biggest couple accomplishments would be being a three-time All-American, along with one of my favorite teammates and now Olympic gold medalist, Jordan Poulter. We were three-time All-Americans in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And going to the Final Four senior year was definitely one of the highlights of being an Illinois volleyball player. I would say mine, Jordan's junior year, we overcame some really hard games in the postseason tournament and the NCAA tournament. We upset Hawaii and Washington at Washington to make it to the Sweet 16. We weren't supposed to do that. And so looking back on that, that was definitely one of my favorite accomplishments.
What was it like getting to obviously get to play in the Sweet 16?
Any year that you make the tournament is a great year. If you're looking at it statistically, my sophomore year, we did not make the tournament, and that was pretty tough because we had such a great team that year. And that was definitely one of the most competitive Big Ten seasons that I played in. So my freshman year, we made it to the Sweet 16. I believe we lost to Minnesota. Minnesota had an amazing team that year, and it was just a really fun freshman year tournament experience to make it to the Sweet 16 and go that far. And then sophomore year, we didn't make it to the tournament. Junior year, made it to the Sweet 16 again. And that was after we upset Washington and Hawaii. And we ended up losing to Michigan State, who easily had one of their best teams in their program history. They were just a stellar team. They had 7 great seniors. And then, going to the Sweet 16 my senior year, it was interesting because it felt a little bit different because we knew that the Sweet 16 was not where we were going to stop. We wanted to be where we were at the previous year. We didn't want to get stuck at the Sweet 16, and having that mindset really pushed us to go to the Elite Eight and then the Final Four. And we were so close in the Final Four to even going to the finals.
What was that feeling like of going to the Final Fours and being so close to obviously the finals?
Yeah. There are very little feelings like that I have felt in my sports career, even professionally. I don't know that I've come close to that feeling of beating Wisconsin in the Elite Eight to make it to the Final Four. There was just so many emotions going on at that time. And then going into the Final Four, we had a lot of confidence because we had beaten Nebraska previously in the year. Obviously, they had beaten us too. And so it kind of came down to that third and final game for both of us that season. We were split 1-1. So it's all right, who's going to win this third game and kind of break that tie. And even throughout the game, we were learning so much about ourselves and how to keep composure in big moments. And although it wasn't the outcome that we wanted, I think it was a really good learning experience for the younger girls too.
Of course, coming out of college, what was it like getting into international volleyball?
That's such a loaded question for so many reasons, just because NCAA volleyball is so different from professional volleyball. And although I had so many resources and so many people tell me what professional volleyball was like, you really can't experience it or understand it until you go play over there. You can do everything in your power to learn about the culture, learn language, but until you actually go over there and experience it firsthand, it's just unlike anything that you could have experienced before.
What was it like getting to travel the world and go to like France, Puerto Rico to play internationally?
The travel opportunities were incredible. I had only been to Canada before traveling to France for my first professional season. So uh, it was definitely a different culture over there. I had always dreamt about going to Europe, going to Paris, and getting to do that. And honestly, not have to pay for it. That was a big thing too. um, kind of going, traveling with the team and seeing so many different cool places. Volleyball has taken me to some really cool places around the US, and now it's taking me overseas and internationally. It's honestly such an incredible experience, and Puerto Rico is beautiful. So, no complaints there at all.
How has obviously playing international volleyball helped you into where you are now with Athletes Unlimited?
I think the biggest takeaway from playing international volleyball is having a little bit more empathy towards everyone around you, because I've been a foreigner in a country where I don't speak the language. I'm not used to their customs or their culture or their traditions even. And so being a little bit culture shocked and trying to learn and catch up and be a part of something that you really don't understand is so hard. And so being here in the US, when I see someone or hear someone not speaking English or having broken English or something, I just have way more empathy towards them for trying to live or visit a country that they are not native to. And I think it's so cool to be able to reflect and kind of relate to people like that now. It definitely makes me want to travel more and learn more about all the different cultures of the world, and getting to experience a few different ones in Europe, like the French culture, the Finnish culture, the Spanish culture. I've been to Barcelona a few times. And now the Puerto Rican culture. They're all so different in their own ways. And it's just really cool to know so many people from so many different corners of the world.
What was it like, obviously, when you signed and got drafted to Athletes Unlimited?
It was a very incredible experience to be a part of the inaugural season of AU. AU really had a mission to bring professional volleyball to the US. And I think they did such a great job executing that in such uncertain times with COVID. And then in Dallas, we had a once in a century ice storm come through, and we somehow just navigated it all. And I think everyone really wanted some grace through that. And I think that the athletes were just happy to be there. I was happy to just be there and experience all of that. And I am so excited for a second season.
What is it like, obviously, getting to put on your first professional jersey and then obviously putting on your first Athletes Unlimited jersey in the nationals?
Yeah, I never thought that professional volleyball was something I wanted to do, especially in my early volleyball careers. Um, throughout like high school, club, and then even the beginning of college, I wasn't entirely sure that's something I wanted to do. And then senior year, like I had mentioned, it was something that I really thought was something that I wanted to do. And I was so right when I got over to France and started meeting some people I still talk to now, even though it's been 2 years. Um, it just receiving that jersey with my last name on it, with my first professional team, Béziers, and just realizing that this is something that, less than 1% of people ever get to do. Less than 1% of all athletes get to do, not just volleyball players. And to be able to say like, yeah, like I played professionally in France, it's just so cool. And then on the flip side, to put on an Athletes Unlimited jersey and be able to say like, yeah, I was in that first AU season ever in 10 years from now. Hopefully it's still a thing in 10 years from now. And be able to look back and say like, yep, that was me in number 55, playing amongst some of the best volleyball players in the world with Jordan Larson and Shayla Castro and Betty De La Cruz. Getting to play alongside of them, I never thought was a reality. And getting that jersey and wearing it every weekend for 3 games. Okay.
Let's see where we were at. Oh, what is it like getting to switch teams each weekend to play with new people?
The first, actually not the first, all of the times, all of the drafts were so stressful. And it's not stressful in the way that you're like, oh, I hope I get picked. It's just like, who am I going to be with this week? What team am I going to fit into? Have I played with these people before? Because team chemistry is so important in volleyball. So it was just kind of interesting to see, like, I ended up being on Team Purple for 3 of the weeks, playing with the same 3 or 4 people on the team. So that was really fun because we got to build a little bit of chemistry, whereas some teams are completely new every week. It really just depended on who the leaders were and who the person drafting ended up being, because the draft order kind of changed depending on what your team color was. So if you were on Team Gold, you got the last pick, just because you were supposed to be the best team, or you had the person with the most points. So it was just a really interesting dynamic, but I kind of like the thrill of it. Getting to play with so many new people, it was kind of just a scramble, so it was really fun.
Of course, when getting drafted to each team each week, what was it like obviously getting to be on the same team as some of those players like Kristen and obviously players like that you knew?
Yeah, it was so fun. I never thought I would ever play on a team with Shayla Castro. She is won 2 Olympic gold medalists with Brazil. So I just really never thought that I would play with her. And to be able to draft her and then play with her was really, really cool. She's definitely one of those big time international players that you grow up watching the Olympics and saying, like, wow, that girl's really good. And then you get to play in the same league with her. That was just kind of a starstruck moment. But yeah, there are some really fantastic players that I didn't think that I would get to play with. And AU gave me that opportunity and gave so many other people the opportunity. I met, a couple of my best friends that I still talk to today, like getting to play with them or even just hanging out with them when we were in our little bubble. So it was really fun.
Of course, what was it like for you to draft the players, as you said that you drafted some players?
Yeah, so the first week of actual play. So I was lucky enough to have a really good scrimmage week, and I racked up some points and I got to be on the leaderboard. And that meant I got to draft my own team, which was super fun because that was the first ever AU volleyball draft. And for me to be a part of that, I was just like, okay, like, sure, take advantage of that. So I know I drafted Betty Dale Cruz, Shayla Castro was on my team, and Nomaris Velez was on my team, I believe. Um, so getting to play with some really cool international players kind of brought back that feeling of, okay, I know that these players are amazing in their own countries, and now we're all here playing together. Um, it was just such a fun opportunity to bring so many different cultures together and learn from them. Even though I was one of the youngest, I think there were two other girls younger than me at AU, so I was one of the youngest players there. And to be drafting these players who have decades of volleyball under their arms, so I was like, oh my gosh, like I have so much to learn from them. But everyone was kind of just on the same page, like we just want to win. So
What was it like, obviously, with playing in Athletes Unlimited, having those teams that and those players that obviously when you were in college you played against and now you're playing with?
yeah, that was also really fun. There were a few girls like Tiffany Clark, Kelly Hunter, Kylie Pickerel. I played against a lot of those girls in college, and I never thought, like, I always thought that they were nice. You know, there's no animosity or hatred. I mean, we're all competitors and we all want to win games. So obviously, when it came to game time, we're like, you're the enemy in college. But then at AU, it's like, we all hang out. We could be on the same team next week. We might not be on the same team this week, but who knows, next week we could be. So it was really fun to kind of reminisce and say, hey, remember when we played each other freshman year and blah, blah, blah happened? So, excuse me. It was really fun to reminisce on our glory days in college.
Of course, what is some of your game day routines and rituals like?
I actually don't have any. There's a lot of people that I know that do that are like, I must have my coffee at this time. I have to have a game day nap, or I have to go for a walk in the morning, something like that. I know a lot of people have those rituals, but I actually don't have any. I kind of just listen to my body, and if I need a nap, I'll take a nap. If I need a coffee, I'll drink a coffee. Or in Puerto Rico, I got into taking pre-workout before the games because we'd play at like 8, 9 o'clock at night. So I was like, I need some pre-workout or something. Um, so I actually don't have any, but I know quite a few people that do and have to wear their socks a certain way, their hair a certain way, something like that. They have to prep themselves in some way, but I am not one of those people actually.
Of course, what is it like, obviously, getting to play international and obviously get to play with Athletes Unlimited?
Yeah, the international play is a little bit different from the Athletes Unlimited play, and not just because of how the league is run. I think with Athletes Unlimited, the professionalism is a little bit closer to what the NCAA resembles. We are more of a self-governing league. So our coaches aren't really coaches, they're more facilitators that, like, for example, my first week when I was captain, I did not want to have coaching responsibility. I had all these great players on my team, and I was like, I don't want to mess this up. So I passed it off to the facilitator I had that week, and I said, okay, you're going to be the coach. You're going to do the practices, the lineups, and that's kind of how it was meant to run. Was that if you wanted to be the coach, you could be the coach, and the facilitator just kind of gave you advice if you asked for it, or kind of just sat back. But I wanted them to be the coach. Whereas internationally, you are strictly the player, and whatever the coach says usually goes. It's a little bit tough being a foreigner sometimes because you might not always understand the language, and so you hope that someone on your team can translate whatever the coach is saying. I was lucky enough in France to have a lot of my teammates speak English and French, and so there was usually never any big language barriers going on. Obviously, if we traveled and we were not with one of those, translator teammates is a little bit tough. But I would say that was probably the biggest difference between international and playing here in the US was just kind of the dynamics of the league are a little bit different.
Who are some players that you look up to in the volleyball community?
I know when I was younger, it was a lot of college players. Like I really looked up to Katie Slay. She played at Penn State. Um, I want to say it was around 2012. I can't remember her years exactly, but Katie Slay was a big time middle that I just thought was this standout player that I was just obsessed with. I would watch a lot of Penn State games because of her. Jordan Larson and Kelsey Robinson were up there too. I took a visit to Tennessee actually when Kelsey was a freshman there before she transferred to Nebraska. And I remember meeting her, kind of hanging out because freshmen usually are the ones that do recruiting visits a lot of times. So I got to hang out with Kelsey Robinson a little bit when she was a freshman at Tennessee, and then she transferred to Nebraska. And just following her career in the Big Ten was really cool because I had always wanted to play in the Big Ten. And so watching her and even Jordan Larson earlier than Kelsey there was really cool.
What advice would you give professional athletes looking to play professionally, whether it's with Athletes Unlimited or going internationally?
I would say just keep an open mind, especially going overseas. If you are an American player going to a foreign country, and if you had never played there before, I would just say keep an open mind. You can do as much research and try and learn the language as much as possible, which definitely helps, I will say. Do your research, try to learn the language, especially out of respect for the country. But go in with an open mind because it's never what you expect. People can tell you, oh, my experience in Italy was like this. Oh, my experience in Germany was like this. But everyone has such a different experience over there that one person's experience will never be the same as another person. So just keep an open mind. And especially with Athletes Unlimited, you could be a freshman out of college playing with a Shayla Castro or a Betty De La Cruz who have years and years and years of professional volleyball on you, and you could be a freshman and you could still hang with these great players. So stay confident and stay open with your mind and learn the culture.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
My Twitter handle is AllisonRose_5 and my Instagram handle is AllisonRose5.
Thank you again, Allison, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Athletes Unlimited.
Thanks for having me on here.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.